Story of Gangsters, a hero facing a dilemma. Kids' adventure stories. Written by Jeff Child. Narrated by John H. Feskins. Introduction. Criminals are all over the city. The crime syndicate called Contra has taken over most of the black market. There are those who dare not leave their homes at night, those who wander where some of the rich got their wealth, and those who simply decide to join them, like Pedro. Pedro doesn't seem familiar with the practices in the underground movement, but he is about to know all about it. After joining Contra, he learns the tricks of the trade and deceives various citizens to achieve his goal, to get deeper into the criminal organization. Is he just trying to become rich, or does he have a secret agenda? Well, quickly listen on and find out. Chapter 1. Sunglasses. Wee-oo, wee-oo, wee-oo. Sirens pass by Pedro's house. He hates the noises. They wake him up. He has been sleeping in for the past week or so. He slowly stretches his arms and legs, scratches his head, and looks around him with his eyes half closed. Ugh, too early, he says, as he drops on his back and falls asleep again. Annoying sirens, he complains after he wakes up again, putting the pillow on his head to block the sounds. Fine, I'm up. There's no point in trying to sleep anyway. He looks around him. It's pitch black since the curtains are closed. He sits up, stares in front of him for a few minutes, and stands up. He walks to the window and opens the curtains. Ah, too bright, he complains. Pedro then decides to open them just a little, so that the sunlight shines through the thin crack. Pedro doesn't have much. He lives in the slums and has been trying to find a good job for a long time. It hasn't worked out yet. Unemployment is everywhere. Nobody seems to find a decent job in this city. Time to make another attempt, he says as he sighs. He walks to his closet and puts on his suit, his only suit, the one he uses for job interviews. He knows it will impress his potential employer if he looks high class, even when he doesn't live like a high-class citizen. It's all about the appearance, about status. But despite his efforts to stand out and look competent, he hasn't succeeded. He hasn't been hired, and paying his rent has become a drag. Looking good, he tells himself as he looks in the mirror before heading out the door. He walks across the street, crosses another one, and turns left twice. There it is, the job agency. He approaches the door, opens it, and steps inside. "Good morning, sir. What can I do for you?" the lady behind the desk asks. "I'm still looking for a job," Pedro says. "That's great, because we just got a new assignment from the police." "The police? What kind of assignment is it?" "They wouldn't say, but they asked me to let them know as soon as I would find anyone looking for a job. Shall I contact them and ask them and let them know you were here?" "Sure, that sounds fine," Pedro says. Several minutes later, Pedro has a time and location for an appointment at the police station. He decides to walk there. He has all the time in the world anyway. Traffic was pretty bad. There were cars and trucks everywhere. A few times, he takes extra care when crossing the street. He witnesses an accident and a traffic violation. What a dirty city this has become. Well, not entirely. Some people live in the rich parts, neighborhood with large villas, beautiful gardens, and swimming pools in the backyards. It would be great to live there, he thought. He sees the police station. It's right in front of him. After a few minutes walking and a long red stoplight, he enters the building. At the front desk, somebody guides him to a closed space on the other side of the police station. It's a dark room with a big mirror in it. Pedro figures it is one of those mirrors which is actually a window, so that people on the other side can see him, even though he cannot see them. "So, your name is Pedro?" a man asks as he walks in. That's correct, sir, Pedro says. And you are here for the new job? I am. Excellent. Have a seat. I shall explain your job description. My name is not important. This mission is classified, and I will ask you some questions before we get started, just to make sure you are qualified for the job. Sounds fair, Pedro says. The man questions him for 20 minutes, and then decides to unfold the secret information about the job. He takes another 20 minutes to explain all the details, and then ends his story. We specifically had the job agency make it appear as a normal job, the man says. Considering the nature of the assignment, it could only be done by a civilian, not a police officer. You understand that, don't you? Clear as a glass, sir, Pedro answers. Then you are ready. I will see you later, Pedro. Don't forget that this information is of the utmost importance. It's top secret. You cannot reveal it to anyone. With those words, they say goodbye. Pedro walks straight to an alley behind the biggest apartment buildings and businesses in the city, an alley known for its dark past and dirty trades. He knows what he has to do. It isn't a common everyday assignment. This is serious stuff. He feels honored that the police officer entrusted him with this. Suddenly he hears a voice. Hey, psst. He turns around. In front of him is a guy in jeans and a black shirt, holding a bag and wearing sunglasses. He looks like he is up to no good, but for some reason, Pedro doesn't feel threatened by him at all. Want to make some extra money? You look like a smart guy. My name is Matthew. I know a way to score big with the big boys. Pedro is curious. Go ahead and tell me. I'm listening. So, I work for an organization that, well, never mind the name. It's a company with powerful leaders. They are willing to pay you well. Interested? Of course, Pedro says. Okay, follow me. Pedro follows the shady figure into another alley. They crisscross through the maze of obscure back alleys in the heart of the city. After several turns, the guy with the black shirt says, Wait here. Pedro obeys. He watches as Matthew walks through a door and listens to him discussing something with one of his colleagues. He can't figure out what they are saying, but he concludes it's probably about him doing a job for them. Sometime later, the guy in the black shirt comes out. You're good, he says. Are you ready to hear what you need to do? Yes, Pedro answers. They enter the room, and a big guy stands in front of him behind a desk. He is wearing a white shirt and a tie. Do you care about the law? He asks. That depends, Pedro says. On what? On whether or not there is something in it for me. Good, the big guy says. My name is Albert. I am the brains in this operation. I suppose my man here told you you would get your hands dirty when working with us. Yes, he has, and I have no problem with that. If you did, we'd have to show you the door. As our employer, you are sworn to secrecy. You will perform tasks on a commission basis. When you're done with the task, you report to me. Understood? Yes, sir. All right, Albert says. Then it's time to tell you what you need to do. But first, take these sunglasses. They're a gift from the boss. Chapter 2. Evading Taxes. Albert gives Pedro a pair of sunglasses. They look expensive. Pedro accepts them gladly, realizing that even if he sold just this pair, he would probably be able to pay the rent for a month. How much did you say these were? Pedro asks. Oh, those are about $500, Albert says. Consider it a down payment. For what you're about to do, we will make enough money to buy hundreds of pairs like that. And the boss? Where is he at? If you tell me, I can personally look him up and thank him for his generous gift. Don't ask about the boss, Albert yells. You have not proven yourself enough to ask such questions. He won't see anyone he doesn't trust. No problem, Pedro says. Can you show me what to do?" "Okay, listen carefully," Albert says. "I am only going to explain this once. See this picture?" he asks, pointing at a photograph on the wall. "That's Mr. Finnegan. He is the tax collector of the city. Arrogant rich guy, if you ask me. Anyway, he thought it was fun to tax us on our businesses." "What kind of businesses?" Pedro asks. "Never mind that, he just did. He wrote us a letter stating that we owe the government $3 million for taxes. It's insane, I know. Why would honest people like us try to avoid paying taxes? I don't know where all these accusations come from, but we are going to do something about it, and you will play a vital part in that operation." "What do I need to do?" Pedro asks. Albert grabs a map from the drawer in the corner of the room. "This is the tax office in the city building. That over there is the main office where this guy goes every morning. Mr. Finnegan is a scatterbrain. He has to stay in his routine, or he will lose sight of what is happening. I am sure this is why they hired him. So stuck on rules and numbers that he is all in the details and doesn't notice what's going on around him. At 8:30 a.m., he gets his morning drink from the vending machine in the hallway. It's probably some soup or hot chocolate. I don't care. The cameras don't lie. After he takes his drink, he heads to his office, but he has to pass through a series of cubicles with computers and paperwork. That's where you come in. Tomorrow is the day he will take our tax papers to his office." After Albert's explanation of Mr. Finnegan's morning routine, the trio gets on the computer, prepares the necessary papers, and gets everything ready to break the tax collector's routine in the morning. Pedro isn't too happy with what he has to do to gain these people's trust, but he knows that paying the bills is important too. He goes to bed and falls asleep fast. The next morning the adventure begins. Pedro is a little nervous, but confident that he can pull it off. They meet in front of the tax office building at 8 a.m. Pedro is fidgeting. He hasn't done anything like this before. "So you go to the hallway," he tells Matthew, "and you, Pedro, will be ready when I spill my hot chocolate on Mr. Finnegan's shirt. You will only have a few seconds. Don't disappoint me." "I won't," Pedro says. They split up. Pedro heads to the office and hides a little between the cubicles of the government workers. He has a stack of paperwork in his hands. Now it's only a matter of time before he can switch the papers. Matthew is in the hallway. He pretends to eat a sandwich and look at some fake papers he brought as a distraction. Matthew waits and waits. There is Mr. Finnegan. As always, he heads straight for the vending machine, looking at his watch and putting his papers on the right side. "That's an interesting tie," Matthew says as he walks up to him and stands on his left side. "What? Oh, yes, I got it a few months ago. I love the patterns," Mr. Finnegan says. "Well, I think it stands out, but not as much as his tie." Matthew points to a coworker on the right side. Mr. Finnegan looks and doesn't notice that when his head is turned, Matthew puts a little hypnotic powder in his tea. Mr. Finnegan turns his head back and looks at Matthew as if there is something suspicious about him. Matthew smiles. "Did you see him?" Matthew asks. No. "Who were you pointing at?" Mr. Finnegan asks. "Oh, he must have left the room right before you saw him. I would check him out sometime today. His tie is amazing too. You guys should do a contest. Anyway, I am pretty busy. I gotta go. See you later." "Odd duck," Mr. Finnegan mumbles. He takes his tea and paperwork and walks through the other offices to his own. Right at that moment, Albert walks into him. Baff! "Oh, excuse me," Albert says as he accidentally, or actually on purpose, spills his hot drink on Mr. Finnegan. Startled by this sudden encounter, Mr. Finnegan drops his papers. That's when Pedro crawls over the floor and starts gathering the papers. "Oh, in the future, could you please watch out where you're going?" Mr. Finnegan asks with irritation in his voice. "Now I have to get a rag and clean my shirt." In the meantime, Pedro skims through Mr. Finnegan's paperwork and exchanges his own papers for his. He picks them up, muffles Mr. Finnegan's original paper underneath his shirt, and hands them over to Mr. Finnegan. "Thank you, young man. At least some people here have manners." With those remarks, Mr. Finnegan retires to his office and sits down, whipping off the spilt hot chocolate. "Did you get them?" Albert whispers. "Yes. Let's get out of here," Pedro whispers back. Together they go to a different room and put the papers on the desk. They don't have much time. Mr. Finnegan will take a sip of his drink, fall asleep for about 15 minutes, and perhaps notice that the papers are different. Albert and Pedro look at the signature on the papers, copy and paste some information, alter a few details, and stack them up before leaving the room. "There," Albert whispers. "See? He's asleep. Tread carefully. You must not wake him up." Pedro casually walks past the other co-workers and then sneaks into Mr. Finnegan's office. One foot after the other, he slowly approaches his desk and exchanges the original altered papers for the ones he gave Mr. Finnegan, to make it seem everything was normal. He looks back, checks one more time if he is still asleep, and then follows the other two criminals outside. Chapter 3. Smuggle. "You did it," Albert says enthusiastically. "Now you are ready for another job, but first, your payment." He writes Pedro a check with a sum of money Pedro never dreamed of receiving. This was good business. It may not have been entirely proper or legal, but if he could earn this much for each task he performs, he would be a millionaire in no time. Pedro smiles. He realizes the magnitude of this criminal organization, but there is more, and he is about to find out what that is. The next day, Pedro arrives at the same building he met Albert. He knocks, gets let in, and waits for his next assignment. "As you may have heard," Albert begins, "we are part of the biggest underground movement in the city. It's called Contra, and you have the honor to work for them. I have been a Contra member for years now, and I can assure you that you will face a life full of luxury if you follow our orders and do not question them." "I've heard of it, and I am honored," Pedro says. "Then let me give you your next assignment," Albert continues. "The harbor isn't a safe place anymore. We used to be able to do what we wanted, but now the authorities are all over it. They put guards there and are constantly watching the transportation services. You mentioned earlier that you'd had some combat training, right?" "That's correct." "Well, if you could take out the guards on the evening of the 26th, then we can finally import our, merchandise." "Sure, no problem. How many guards are we talking about?" "Usually about 8 or 9. Like I said, it's not going to be easy," Albert says. "I'll figure out a way," Pedro says. Before he knows it, the days on the calendar fly by, and the 26th is at the door. Pedro puts on a black outfit to blend into the darkness of the night. He leaves his expensive sunglasses at home. He has a plan. He figured out a way to take this handful of guards down. He arrives at the docks. The windy sea and full moon are perfect distractions for attacks. Sneaking behind the large containers, he analyzes any patterns of the guards' behavior and movements. He uses binoculars to count their steps and come up with a strategy. The containers are the solution. Suddenly, he bangs on one of the containers. Bang, 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 bang! The guards turn around. "What was that?" one of them asks. "It sounded like it came from over there," another one says. "Let's go check it out." All the guards go the same way. They walk to the containers where Pedro was banging to make noise. They are surprised when they see that one of the containers has been opened. Curious to see what's inside, they walk into the container. Bam! Pedro shuts the door and locks it. "That was easy," he says. "Not very effective guards, if you ask me." He whistles to the other side of the docks. "It's okay, the coast is clear," he yells. "Hey, let us out," the guards are yelling from inside the container. "Oh, be quiet," Pedro says as he walks away. He meets Albert and Matthew next to the containers. "Thanks, Pedro. Now we can take our goods out of the ship. Could you give us a hand?" "Sure," Pedro says. Following them, they head up a wooden plank and see the 5 men hauling away big boxes. Pedro doesn't question anyone and simply starts helping them, lifting a box here and putting down another one there. The boxes aren't heavy, but according to Albert, they are most valuable. But then Matthew drops one of the boxes. It slides open, and dozens of $100 bills fall out. "Clumsy imbecile," Albert sneers. "Put those bills back in the box immediately." As Matthew picks up the bills, Pedro is starting to see what is happening here. The bills are fake. It's fake money that they printed without the government's permission. It's easy to see, since some of them are lacking a few complicated artistic patterns you usually see on real $100 bills. "Finish the job and you'll get a share of it," Albert says as he smiles. "Of the real ones, I mean." Chapter 4. Stealing. Back at Albert's office, Pedro sits down and stares at the computer. He is involved now. He is in. He has proven himself. There is no turning back. He might as well keep going with all this criminal stuff. Albert walks in after he returns from the bathroom. "Pedro," he begins, "you have performed your duty and provided us an excellent service. By the way, the police were called and the guards were released, but only after we had already left the premises thanks to you. We owe you our gratitude. But before we get into that stuff, are you ready for your next assignment?" "And what might that be?" Pedro asks curiously. "Theft." "Ah." Pedro raises his eyebrows. "There is a billionaire up in the hills, Pedro. He stole what was rightfully ours. He signed the contract, he broke the deal, and now he won't return our property. We cannot let him get away with this. We are going to break in and retrieve our possessions. Are you in or not?" "Of course. What's in it for me?" "Ha ha! I like you, Pedro. A share of the money we steal will be yours. How does 10% sound?" "Give me 20% and I'll do it," Pedro says. "Deal. Meet me here at 2 p.m., no later. That's when this rich guy leaves the house. Well, a little bit before that, actually, but it gives us just enough time to snatch what belongs to us." Pedro waits until Albert is out of the room and looks at Matthew. "So, Matthew, do you know who gives the assignments?" "Well, Albert does, of course," he answers. No, I mean, who is above Albert? Who gives him the assignments?" "Oh, his name is Derek Dijon, but we don't talk about him. Nobody can even see him. I never have. He controls the entire underground organization, that's why. He doesn't trust a lot of people, so it's hard to get close to him." "I see," Pedro says. That afternoon, the trio meets at the same office. They put on hoodies to hide their identity, just in case somebody sees them. From there, they head to the hills and enter an expensive neighborhood full of villas and large mansions. Pedro has never set foot in this area and marvels at the beautiful yards, the water fountains, fancy statues, and the homes that cost millions. They pull up on one side of the street, after which Albert tells them to walk across the street. "Never park your car on the same side of the street of the house you're going to break in," he teaches. The house looks huge. Pillars, golden ornaments, and sophisticated shapes in the hedges make this home a little paradise for anyone who can afford it. A large swimming pool becomes visible as they go around the back and try to open the back door. Albert seems to have it easy with all his tricks to break in. Some tools from his backpack, a little drill, and a mirror are sufficient for them to simply open the back door without the alarm going off. "Spread out," Albert says. "See this? This is what we're looking for." He shows a photograph of a diamond helmet. It looks shiny and expensive. No doubt this item costs millions. And this, Albert adds. Another photograph portrays a golden pickaxe. Is that pure gold? Pedro asks. Yes, so now you understand why it's worth so much. But keep your voice down, please. We are assuming there is nobody in the house, but you can never be sure. The three of them split up. Pedro goes upstairs, Matthew descends to the basement, and Albert remains on the main floor. Each of them searches the house thoroughly. Pedro finds the pickaxe in a drawer hidden in a walk-in closet. Matthew finds the diamond helmet in a chest somewhere deep in the basement. Both of them meet on the main floor. Good, Albert says. And guess what, guys? I found a few $1,000 in the closet. This guy is loaded. Money is just coming out of the cracks in this house. Anyway, let's get out of here. We are done. We got what we needed, so let's not stay here for another minute. They leave the house and softly close the door, giving the owner the impression that nothing has changed. Watch out, the owner is back, Albert says. Pedro and Albert dive into the bushes, but Matthew trips and falls into the swimming pool. Splash! The owner noticed. It's clear. He looks up as if he heard the sound coming from the yard. He walks to his home, but takes a detour to find out what is going on in the swimming pool. Matthew stays underwater. We've got to help him, Pedro says. There's nothing we can do, Albert says. It would be better to leave. His fate is unfortunate, but we've got to go or we'll all be in trouble. No, we can't just leave him, Pedro argues. Then get him if you want. I have the helmet and the pickaxe. There is no point in helping him. Just give me 2 minutes, Pedro insists. Okay, but no longer, Albert says. We have to leave as quickly as we can. If you're not back within 2 minutes, I will leave without you. That's not going to happen, Pedro says. He checks if the coast is clear. It isn't. The millionaire is standing close to the water now, suspicious that someone has trespassed and is hiding somewhere not too far away from him. He looks to the right and to the left. Then he looks down into the swimming pool. Hey, he says. At that moment, Pedro dashes at him and pushes him into the swimming pool. Come on, he says to Matthew as he stretches out his hand. Matthew grabs his hand, and Pedro pulls up the deserted criminal. Together they run as fast as they can, reaching the car before the rich owner of the house even realizes who that was and what just happened to him. The duo gets into the car and tells Albert to drive. As fast as they can, they drive off, happy with the 2 valuable objects they just stole. Thanks for getting me, Matthew says. I don't know what would have happened if he would have found me first. You're welcome, Pedro says. You're a funny guy, Pedro, Albert says. You are a tough negotiator. You don't care about breaking the law, but you do everything to secure the safety of another coworker. Pedro smiles. He didn't do this without a good reason. It's not that he cares if a dumb criminal like Matthew gets arrested, but he has other motives. Motives they will soon all find out about. Chapter 5. Scam Artist. We have another job for you, Albert says as they arrive at the office. I'd like to see my 20% first, Pedro says. Oh yeah, I almost forgot, I really did. Right, Pedro says skeptically. Albert pays Pedro. That's 20% of what these objects are worth if we sold them. We will work on it, but this is just a payment in advance, also to keep you on your feet for the next assignment. Go ahead, Pedro says. It's simple, Albert says. Have you heard of multi-level marketing companies? Remind me, Pedro says. Multi-level marketing companies let you in if you give them a sum of money and promise you that you can make a lot more if you sell their product. Let's say that their product is oils. You know, those oils you can sniff or put in your drink for health. A company would ask for $100 of your money and tell you that you can make $100,000 in a year back if you sell their oils to customers, like friends, family, and acquaintances. If they sign up underneath you, you get a percentage if they sell something. This way, if you get to the top, you'll have all those people working under you and you can make money without doing anything. Get it? Sure. Sounds familiar. But are you trying to tell me that you have a company like that? Pedro asks. Similar. What we have is called a pyramid scam. It's the same concept, except that there is no real product to sell, so they will think that they can make the money back, but before they know it, it's already too late, and you'll be gone with their money. All you have to do is convince people how much they can make back if they only invest a little. I can do that. Where can I find these people? We already prepared a list of potential customers who showed at least some interest, Albert answers. It should be easy. Go to their doors, talk to them, and for every person who signs up, you get 50%. Give me that list and I'll show you how it's done, Pedro says. That's the spirit. You have a week to complete this list. Work hard and you'll be a lot wealthier by the end of the week. Any questions? Not really. All the information is on there, isn't it? Exactly. Now go get them. The first door. It took a while to get there, and Pedro hasn't knocked on doors since a few years ago, when he was selling knives and had an even harder time making ends meet. He walks through the gate and knocks. It takes a minute before the resident opens up. It's an old man with glasses and a dark blue shirt. His belt looks way too high, and his expression is very naive, to say the least. Hi there, young man. What can I do for you? How would you like to make $1,000 extra? Pedro asks. Well, let me introduce myself. My name is Mick. I have been in this business for only a few years now, and I am already making 6 figures. You are telling me that you already make $100,000 each year? The old man asks. Hey, don't take my word for it. Just enroll in the program. We have hundreds of people who are making a similar amount of money each year and have barely started. All you have to do is invest $100, which you can make back within a few weeks. Once you're past that point, it's all profit, and you can buy that beautiful home you always dreamed of, take a vacation to a tropical paradise, or donate some money to a charity to provide education for those in need. Just think of the possibilities. Pedro says a lot more to convince the old man and collect his $100. After another door and another and another, he is exceeding his own expectations. This is too easy. All these people are easily falling for this dumb scam. All he has to do is keep up the smooth talking and put a few convincing reasons out there, and they sign up, handing him their money. For a whole week, he works as hard as he can. He visits people in the morning, the afternoon, and even in the evening. He knocks on door after door, sometimes running to get it done faster. Some people don't want to hear it, and don't fall for his deceiving words. They have already been conned out of their money too many times. But most of the people on the list are open and willing to invest a little, gullible as children, believing that they will get rich by investing into this pyramid scam. Chapter 6. Police. The last day of the week, and coincidentally the last door Pedro knocks on, a cop pulls over. He has been following Pedro for a few hours now, trying to pick up some of the things Pedro says to the potential customers on the list. He doesn't trust it, one bit. Pedro comes back after talking to the woman at the door. He avoids the tiny barking dog that seems more courageous than its size. Hold on, young man. I'm Officer Mill. Can I please see your business license? Yeah, I got it right here, Pedro says as he digs into his back for paperwork. He doesn't really have a business license, but he is pretending to get it. A few seconds later, he takes out a paper and throws it at the police officer. The officer tries to catch it, startled by the sudden movement of this guy. He grabs the piece of paper on the ground and looks up, realizing he has been duped. Pedro is already 100 feet away, taking the opportunity to abscond. "Come back here," Officer Mill yells. He gets his walkie-talkie. "Request for immediate backup. Suspect is running away on 3rd Street and 21st Avenue. He steps into his car, puts on his siren, and chases after Pedro. Wait a minute. Where did he go? He must have gone into that alley. Other police cars are approaching, but they have completely lost sight of him. "What the? He can't be too far. Search the area," Officer Mill commands. But it's no use. Pedro has already jumped into a sewer and is patient enough to wait for days if he has to. It stinks, and he is a little annoyed that he got caught, but he got away, and that's what counts. Night falls, and the officers are slowly being called off duty. They've given up. They think he left. Pedro waits for another hour after he sees all the cop cars leave, and then climbs out of the sewer. He goes to Contra's office and reports. "Oh my, you stink, man," Albert complains. "I got into trouble. There were some cops following me." "Wow, and you dove into the sewer? I gotta tell you, you got commitment, dude." "Thanks. Here's the money I earned." Albert counts it and gives Pedro half of it. "I'm impressed," he says. "In fact, I've been talking to my supervisor, and he is willing to see you. He's heard of your accomplishments and wants to meet you face to face." Pedro tries to control his excitement. "Ah, good," he says calmly, though exuberantly jumping up and down on the inside. "You'll meet him tomorrow," Albert says. "Now go home and enjoy your money." Pedro walks home past the familiar streets in his neighborhood. He knows what he's done. He has scammed hundreds of people out of their money. He's not proud of it, but he has a goal. When he comes home, he counts his money again and is glad that he can pay the rent in advance, just so he doesn't have to worry about it for a few months. He sits back and meditates for some time, relaxing and getting ready for the big day that he can meet Derek Dijon. It's about time, he thinks. A criminal mastermind like him should show their face every once in a while. Chapter 7. The Big Boss. Pedro is on time. He is sure of that. He doesn't want to miss this appointment. He is blindfolded. Albert and Matthew made sure that Pedro would know nothing about the location of the big boss, Derek Dijon. Pedro doesn't care. All he wants is to meet the man. He has been looking forward to it for a while now, and understands that he has gotten to a level that the boss finally started trusting him. The car arrives. Pedro is pushed out of the car. Matthew takes off the blindfold. Pedro looks around. They are inside a garage of some warehouse. He doesn't recognize it, but it doesn't matter. He just wants to know where Derek Dijon is. Matthew pushes him towards a door. "Take it easy," Pedro says. "Hey, just because you got me out of trouble once doesn't mean you can have a big mouth," Matthew says. "So shut up and keep walking." "Thanks for nothing," Pedro complains softly. They walk through a luxurious hallway with red carpet on the floor, expensive mirrors on the walls, and authentic paintings on each side. The chandeliers must have cost a fortune, Pedro figures. A little later, they arrive at a wooden door carved with patterns and extravagant images of lions, tigers, and other ferocious animals. They knock. For a moment, it's silent on the other end. "Come in," they suddenly hear. Pedro is pushed inside and stands face to face with Contra's influential leader. Derek Dijon is a big guy in a suit, with the same expensive sunglasses as Pedro is wearing. He has a red tie and leather shoes. With an arrogant little twirl in his step, he approaches Pedro and observes him, walking around him and trying to be intimidating. "So," he begins, "you must be Pedro. I heard a lot about you. Do you know why I called you here?" "You wanted to congratulate me for my performance, sir?" Pedro asks, while pressing a small secret button on the back of his suit. "That too," Derek Dijon says. "I have to admit I'm impressed. You exchanged important tax papers, took out 10 guards at the docks, helped smuggle some real money into the country, retrieved stolen objects from a corrupt minister, flew to the rescue when one of our co-workers was stuck, and spent a whole week signing up more people for our multi-level marketing company than anyone else has. For Contra, I'd do anything, sir, Pedro says. Yes, I noticed, which brings me to the following. Our data says that you signed up 246 people this week. Is that correct? I believe so, Pedro stutters. Derek DeJean comes closer and gets a little in Pedro's face. You little snake, did you think I was stupid? That I wouldn't notice? He suddenly asks. I don't know what you're talking about, Pedro says. Chapter 8. Caught. Let me explain. I had math in school like any other kid, Derek DeJean says. If you really signed up 245 people, you should have earned $24,600, correct? I guess so. I didn't count, Pedro says. Well, Albert swears he gave you half of that money, which is 50%. That should be a sum of $12,300. That leaves me the same amount. Okay, sir. I don't see the problem. I got $20,300 back, he suddenly yells in anger. Would you care to explain where the $8,000 came from? Certainly it wasn't a donation from Albert. What is going on here? Oh, that? Pedro asks. Why do you care? Now you have more money, so what are you complaining about? Don't talk back to me, boy, he says degradingly. I know you're up to something. You must have added that sum of money in there. At first, I was amazed at the amount you earned, which is why I asked for your arrival. I wanted to see you because I was impressed and wanted to thank you. But then, when I counted the subscribers and the money again, I knew something was wrong. You put your own money with it to give me a bonus or something. Why? Oh, well, you see. But before Pedro can say another word, the police kick in the door. Bam! Put your hands above your head and kneel on the floor now, one of the cops says. Derek DeJean obediently kneels down and looks up, but Pedro isn't kneeling down. He smiles and shakes the cop's hand. Then he walks to Derek DeJean and squats in front of him, looking him straight in the eyes. I guess I don't need to explain myself anymore, do I? He says smilingly. The only reason why I committed all those crimes was to gain your trust. Adding my own money was just a simple way to impress you, so that you would talk to me and show me where you were hiding. It was hard to find out where you were, and the police were dying to know where to go to arrest you. They've searched all over the city, and the best way to get close to you and discover your location was to have an insider. But you stole so much. Don't you feel guilty? Derek DeJean asks. Not really. The police have all my money. They have the addresses, and they know exactly who to give it back to. Nobody lost their money forever, just temporarily. How could you? I gave you everything. I trusted you. You could have been a rich man. Why would you give that up? I'd rather be honest, Pedro answers. Besides, the police are paying me well for this little espionage. They interviewed me elaborately to know if I was the right guy, and I think that I have proved that I am. Pedro winks at the officer next to him. Yes, you have, the officer says. By the way, sorry about the chase and your little adventure in the sewer. Those men didn't know about our little deal, so they just chased you without realizing you were on a mission. It's okay, Pedro says. Thanks to my new paycheck, I have bought a new shower head. Men, take this criminal away. Hey, I'm supposed to say that, the officer says. Sorry, I just always wanted to do that, Pedro says as he shrugs. Just you wait. I'll get you. I'll find you wherever you will be hiding, Derek DeJean yells as he is being dragged over the floor towards the outside door. Yeah, sure, Pedro says with a smile. The end. This has been Story of Gangsters, a hero facing a dilemma. Kids' adventure stories. Written by Jeff Child. Narrated by John H. Feskins. Copyright 2017 by Jeff Child. Production copyright 2017 by Jeff Child.